Let's paint this picture of a scene in the beautiful town of Bradford on Avon in England using this reference photograph. The original photographer of this picture is Susan Roghair, who has kindly given me permission to use this photograph in this video. I have made a rough sketch of the scene using light pencil strokes. Since this is a complex scene, it's important to get the proportions and perspective right before the inking process. It's difficult to correct these elements later in the painting process. Let's begin drawing over the rough pencil sketch. I am using a dip pen with black acrylic ink to draw the lines. A dip pen does not hold any ink and has to be dipped in the ink repeatedly while drawing. This is my favorite way to draw with ink, but you may use any drawing tool you are comfortable with. Some of the tools good for drawing are ballpoint pen, gel pen, micron pens or fountain pen. A better way to draw is from left to right if you are right-handed and vice versa. Acrylic ink takes some time to dry. If a right-handed person draws elements on the right first, the hand may smudge the still wet ink when it moves to the left side of the painting. You may notice that the lines I draw are quite wobbly. This is intentional. I want the lines to look hand-drawn. I always advocate never using a scale to draw lines as they look quite artificial that way. When drawing using a pen and ink, it's important to be aware of overlapping elements. Draw the elements at the foreground and near to the viewer first, then draw the objects in the background. Though it's not impossible to hide any overlapping mistakes later, it's better to plan out the overlaps beforehand. You can see here how I am drawing the overlapping elements of the balcony before I draw the glass planes of the window itself. The same principle applies to these external pipes over the walls. Draw these pipes first before you draw the windows behind them. Let's draw some bricks over the walls. While drawing the bricks, be mindful not to draw the bricks too uniformly. Also note that we are not drawing the buildings exactly from front side, but at an angle. Due to this, the buildings appear in a two-point perspective. The supposedly parallel lines we draw for drawing the bricks diverge as they move from right to left. Draw some texture on the walls and other surfaces of the building. It is important to draw textures in a drawing because texture gives a certain character to the objects. These lines on the roof should follow the same perspective line pattern as the rest of the building. The lines should diverge as they get closer to the viewer. Draw the vertical and horizontal bars in the windows. As we move away from the viewer towards the distant windows, draw lesser and lesser details. Once I finish drawing the line work, I will begin painting it with black ink first. For this, I will use a watercolor brush and acrylic ink. Paint the darkest values and the black signboards using black ink. When painting glass panes, do not fill the entire area you paint with ink. Keep some white spaces in between to indicate a reflective surface. Paint one of the edges of the pipes using black ink. It will lend a certain depth to these objects. Let's finish painting with the black ink and then we will apply some grey shades to the painting before coloring it. Observe how I am rubbing the brush in a horizontal manner over the paper to create some gritty texture over the walls. This is called dry brush technique. It's a very useful technique to create such textures on stones. Now wet a clean watercolor brush and use it to create grey shades in the painting. There is no need to dip the brush in ink if you have used acrylic ink so far. Acrylic ink takes a while to dry and become completely waterproof. We can use that drying period to create grey shades from the ink which is already present over the paper. Now let's begin painting the picture using watercolor paint. Begin with brown paint for the roofs. Use the biggest brush available to you first. Use browns, yellows and reds to bring out some variety in the color of the roofs. Mix these paints on paper. Let them flow into each other freely. For the walls, I began with yellows and greens to indicate moss on the walls. I also used some brown and later some purple. Just like the roofs, I let the paints mix and merge freely on the paper. Use blue paint for coloring the white parts of the window glass panes. This will visually separate them from the stone walls. Use some bright colors like red in some window panes to create some points of interest. These colors will indicate the objects past these window panes which are visible from outside. Let's paint the sky to frame the buildings and create further interest in the painting. We will take our artist's freedom and use a bright blue color for the sky even though this scene is from England. I am gently blowing air into the paint while it is still wet to create this interesting dynamic pattern. I am also using spattering techniques to create some interesting patterns in the sky. Now our coloring is complete and it's time to move to finishing touches. Use a white poster paint or white acrylic paint to write text and draw symbols onto the signboards. After all the paint has completely dried, use a ballpoint pen to revive the line work which may have faded in places due to the application of watercolor. This step can also be used to add some texture and shading to the parts where you feel more detailing is needed. Observe how the line work and overall values pop when pen work is added to the painting. Later use a white ballpoint pen or a white gel pen to add some text to the black signboards too. Keep repeating until you are satisfied with the results. And here's our final painting. Do not forget to subscribe to this channel and press the bell icon to receive notifications whenever a new video is uploaded. Happy painting!